Welcome back, and thanks for joining me again for Soul Care with Stevie Boy. In First Peter, first chapter, we looked at verse 6 last time. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trial. There are many places in Scripture where suffering and trials and difficulties are the theme. And Peter addresses in both here in First Peter and then in Second Peter, he addresses the fact that life it's full of difficulties. And in fact, to the people he was writing to in century 1, it wasn't just your generic kind of life sucks type stuff. I mean, we're talking about real persecution, actual suffering for the sake of what they believed. So Peter, when he writes, don't forget, we've got a real inheritance for us in heaven. It's kept for us there, our salvation. But while we're here, we rejoice in what we know is ahead in terms of our hope. But while we're here, now though for a little while, he says, you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. If you sit down and you listed out all the difficulties that you've had in the last 6 months, I'm pretty sure you'd have a fair, lengthy list of things. I don't think that's what Paul's saying. I don't think he's saying, enumerate the times you've suffered, bear down, really focus on those, remember those, hold those in your mind. I don't think that's what he's saying. In fact, in verse 7, he says, here's why all these things are permitted. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. What he's saying is there is a purpose to all the trials. There's a reason behind all the difficulty in life, that suffering is not for nothing. In the recovery world, in the Celebrate Recovery world, there's a saying that says, God never wastes a sorrow. We do, but God intends never to waste a sorrow. In other words, when God permits a sorrow to come into a person's life, he has a purpose. He has a design. Either he caused it or he permitted it. And his purpose in that, according to Peter here, is to prove the genuineness of our faith. Now, I have to admit to you that I am a person of small faith. I am not the guy that says, I believe God for the impossible. I try to believe God for the impossible, but it's hard for me. There's a story, I've told you this before if you've tuned in, but the story of Jesus healed a boy possessed by a demon, and his father. The whole story. Jesus comes down from the Mount of Transfiguration with Peter, James, and John, and he finds the rest of the disciples dismayed and disturbed and disgusted. They were not able to heal the son of this man. And so the man brings his son to Jesus. He's possessed by a demon, and the demon has tried many different times to harm, even to kill the boy. And so he says to Jesus, If you can, would you heal my son? And Jesus said, if I can. And the father says, I believe, help my unbelief. Well, that's me. I suppose in some ways that's my life verse. I believe, help my unbelief. I said it before and I'll say it again. The quantity of your faith is not the point. It's the quality of your faith. And God permits trials into our life so that the quality of our faith can be refined. Most of the most important things that I've learned in life, I've learned through difficulty. some things just came naturally and I learned them and moved right on. But there have been a number of things that did not come naturally, and they took extra work and extra effort and extra intention in order to do. And to be honest with you, the things that came easy mean less to me than the things that came hard. Well, that doesn't quite explain or justify when difficulties come into our lives. Because honestly, difficulties, I don't like them. I don't like the trials. I'm not the guy that says, bring it, I'm tough, this will make me stronger. I'm the guy that says, hey, ease up, would you? I mean, I can only take so much. Well, these have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, in other words, when these trials have passed, they will prove the genuine nature of your faith. Which, here's what he says about your faith. It's of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire. Bear in mind, in the ancient world, very similar to our world, gold was precious, and in the ancient world it was the most precious of metals. And so it's no surprise that Peter would, connect the genuine faith with gold. And here's the other thing. Gold, in order to be refined, has to be put through the fire in a crucible. And he indicates that's a little bit what these trials are. They refine us. They're the crucible. And here's what the result, his desire for the result to be, that they may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Now, this to me there's an interesting thing about this whole concept of resulting in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Let's start back with when Jesus Christ is revealed. He's talked about the fact that there is going to be a time when all of the whole salvation thing will be completed. Jesus is going to return, and when he returns, there he will be ultimately revealed when Jesus Christ is revealed. And when he is revealed, part of his glory will be the genuine faith of his people. I can't explain it. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to always work, but upon his return, Jesus is looking for his faithful followers, those whose faith has been genuine, even though put through the fires of trials and tested in some difficult and intense ways. And in our culture, in America, right now, this testing is frustratingly inconvenient and disappointing sometimes, but friends, we're not experiencing persecution. In an election year like this, there are people who are going to want to promote the idea that as Christians, we're being persecuted for our faith. Well, we are being denigrated in some ways when there are groups of people who they enjoy ridiculing people of faith, Christians. I don't classify that in the same category as Christians in the Middle East who have been beheaded, who have been burned alive, who have been cast out of their society, who can no longer buy or sell, who will be starved out, shut out, closed out by the rest of their community. That's persecution. The trials that we face are trials. Okay, I give you that. Please, though, don't misunderstand some of the first world problems that we have for real persecution. It's unreasonable. I think I just think it's an abomination sometimes. Well, okay, that's my hobby horse. But see, there's another aspect. May result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. On one level, every time my life reflects Jesus, Jesus Christ is being revealed. And it's my hope. Kind of one part of my mission statement is that when I show up, Christ will be known because he is so vibrantly and obviously in me, not in a hooty way, but in an actual genuine way, that Christ is in me. Paul wrote that Christ in you, the hope of glory. And I want that hope. I want the presence of Christ to be in my life enough that he will show up when I show up. And when he shows up, when I show up, he's revealed. And I kind of think it would be a pretty neat thing for me to be able to draw praise, glory, and honor to Christ by me showing up as his follower, his brother, his friend, and bringing him with me. I don't know. It's kind of like a Jesus people interpretation, but I really think it's valid. I think it's worthy. And one quick last thing on that, where does this praise, glory, and honor get directed? It doesn't go to me. It goes to him. Now, people, I think, I want to live my life in such a way that people would want to emulate me, that they would want... I want to, I'll just tell you about my kids and my grandkids. I want my kids and my grandkids, I want them to inherit all the good and dump all the bad that is in me. But I do want my life to be good enough to represent Christ well enough that he will receive praise, honor, and glory. And then Peter goes on, through you, though you have not seen him, you love him, and even though you do not now see him, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Okay, that's a present tense statement. You are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your soul. There's an aspect of salvation that is both present and future. I suppose actually it's past, present, and future. Here's the past. The past is when Jesus from the cross uttered, "It is finished," paid in full. He secured salvation because of the forgiveness of every sin that's been committed by every person for all of time. And that's in the past. In the present, there is me living out my faith, my commitment, my devotion to Christ as a follower. I suppose I left out one piece of the past. Past is that in the past I said yes to Jesus. I was a grade school boy on the plains of southwest Kansas, and I didn't really know all there was. I certainly didn't know all there was to know about the whole thing of salvation. What I knew was, and this is pretty infantile, pretty childish, but it was genuine at the moment. I knew I didn't want to go to hell. And I knew that only Jesus could save me, and I knew that I needed to obey him. And so I obeyed him as best I understood as a grade school boy. My understanding of that has grown over time. I don't hold the same kind of ideas, and my faith has matured. I'm grateful for that, but that was in the past. In the present, I want to live this out, and in the future, I have the assurance, the hope, that because of what Jesus has done for me, I will live with him through all of eternity. I will be in heaven as his friend, as his brother, as a member of his family, forever family. We are receiving the end result of our faith, the salvation of our souls. It is both accomplished and yet to be accomplished. And that's where we live. It's a difficult place to sometimes maintain and navigate. Going back, though you have not seen him, you love him. Interesting that Peter leads with love. And even though you do not see him now, you believe him. That's faith. And are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. I want to be a more expressive person, especially expressive of my joy. I tend to be expressive of my dissatisfaction, my discomfort, my frustrations, and I want to be expressive of my joy. Paul talks about an inexpressible and glorious joy. I don't think that has to do with how great my life is right now, although it is good. I think it has everything to do with the bigger picture of I have every reason for an inexpressible joy, a joy that I can't even put into words, and I can't execute completely on it. An inexpressible and glorious joy because of what Jesus has done for me, what he promises me. And I lose track of that. I get all bogged down in the dailiness of my life and the challenges that I face, the things that to me seem like, well, they just shouldn't be this hard. Well, that's when you kind of just have to, suck it up, buttercup. Life ain't easy. Life is full of trials. But see, the point of trials is to refine my faith. And as my faith is refined, I am receiving my salvation. I am receiving, how does Paul say it? The end result of my faith, the salvation of my soul. When I lose track of that, then it's hard. I don't have this inexpressible joy. It doesn't feel like glorious joy. It feels like hard work, day in, day out. So my challenge, gone over time, but I want to leave you with the challenge is reflect on a couple of things. I asked you a time or two ago to reflect on, read the last 2 chapters in Revelation and reflect on what our eternal home is going to be like. Do that. And then I want to ask you to be mindful this day of how often you think of this inexpressible and glorious joy, the end result of our faith, the salvation of our souls. You don't see him, but you trust him. You don't see him, but you love him. Rest in the assurance of that. Well, jeepers. 18 and a half minutes. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.